Peace, guys. Hey, how to decode spiritual messages, or getting intuitive answers, and how the universe is talking to you, the so-called universe or God or whatever you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want to, because we're living in a time now where people don't really think of it's obvious that we live in, especially with like this newer generation that we're coming up with, is that we're not really as religious as we used to be, or what we were taught or brought up to be. So the concept of universe or God, it's just very different. Like, if you don't want to call it God or universe, then just call it the inner God or the inner universe within yourself, some higher power within yourself, your higher self, your God self. I want to address that real quick before I continue on with this video. So, how to decode spiritual messages, getting intuitive answers, and I'm just going to keep it with what I wanted to title the video, how the universe or God is talking to you. So you may not necessarily believe in a power outside of you, because all the power is within yourself. Everything's touched from within, and as within, so without. But in essence, the reason I'm titling it, how to decode spiritual messages, or the universe talking to you, it just feels like, me personally, it feels right to say universe. I'll just put it that way. I don't believe, or not in a religious sense, but I'm not like someone who's praying to God. The whole thing about praying to a higher, so-called higher, or an entity outside of you, I don't really get down that way. But I do believe that you may not necessarily have to be the only one to do all the work. The universe, I call it universe. So the universe can be out there to help you. There can be a certain consciousness or force or power that is out there as well that you can tap into. Like, not 100% of the work necessarily has to be all just you. And so with that being said, how to decode spiritual messages, getting intuitive answers, and knowing ways that the universe is talking to you. And so the reason I title it these things with this video is, when you judge things, that was in my last video, when you judge people or you judge things, certain circumstances in your life, you kind of, I guess I'm at that point of my spiritual journey. Again, guys, I've addressed this in a couple of my other videos. I'm just here to address my spiritual journey and what's working for me, what I'm learning along my path. And so if it helps you and resonates with you, and we're like kind of on the same path, then this is something that should hopefully be able to be of some use. So anyway, with that being said, I call it universe because there is a power that I believe is out there as well that can help you, as long as you know how to tap into it. Just like believing in deities and doing like all this occult work about like tapping in with other deities and like the orishas and all that kind of stuff, or having like portraits of Ganesh, Hindu gods that you give like offerings to in your room. It could be any deity or god that you want, because you can create anything with your mind. You can give certain entities a certain power anyway. And so with that being said, I don't want to get off topic. The reason I title it those things that I mentioned is because when you judge certain things or people or circumstances or situations in your life, like I said, I'm at that point of my spiritual journey where I feel like I could say I am starting to get a lot more clarity of the mind. Like, I have better clarity of my mind as far as how to like understand this shit. Like, the things that I wonder about, the curiosities and the things that I stumble upon in my life that gets me wondering why or how or why could this be or how could this be. I am getting answers, and those answers are not literal answers like I'm Googling it. Sometimes I do that though. Like, if I have certain questions about certain things, of course we all go to Google. But when I say I receive answers, I mean like on an intuitive sense, like the universe is like conspiring to show me certain answers throughout my day and throughout my spiritual journey or path, like things that I wonder about my attitude, inner work, shadow work, how I'm judging things and perceiving things. Well, there tends to be a lot of synchronicity, and so things that I wonder about as far as like my attitude, why do I keep judging people? Why do I have such a, or I'll just give an example. Why do I feel like there are times where I feel so short-tempered? Like why am I feeling so short-tempered? Why am I like that? Why do I have such low patience with people around me? Why am I like that? And I notice, as irritating as it may be, the more I kind of focus on my sense of impatience and how easily irritated or upset or annoyed that I get with people, the more that I notice that attitude about myself as far as impatience, the more that I feel like the universe or God or whatever you want to refer to, I'll just say universe, the more that I focus on my impatience, or the more that I notice my impatience, the power of awareness, the more that I notice my impatience is something that I notice that the universe is suddenly trying to show me more of my impatience. Like I'm impatient and now I'm starting to realize I am, and I have such a short temper, and I get annoyed, I get very impatient very easily and very fast. And with that being said, then I kind of notice I run into more situations where more of my patience is being tested. Like my mind is already wrapped around my impatience, and then situations like, this is all human stuff, right? We're in a human experience. So like going to the store, waiting in line, dealing with really people that are loud, obnoxious, traffic, people at work, family, arguments, bickering, just little things like me trying to get a peaceful rest or a nap, and then there's a whole bunch of noise everywhere. This is an example. So what I'm trying to say is, I've noticed that, like I said, this is an example. So the more impatient I have noticed myself to be, the more the universe is like testing my patience. And so you get more annoyed. And then it's not after it becomes so consistent with the universe that now I start to realize, oh shit, like maybe the universe or God is really trying to fucking show me something, because this is not like a coincidence anymore. This is not just an accident. This is not just made up whoop-de-doo coincidental, it just happened because it happened kind of thing. Like I'm noticing a pattern here. Like I'm so impatient about things, about myself, about work, about whatever. I have such a short amount of patience when it comes to things. Now the universe or my life as I experience it is starting to like suddenly reveal to me or reflect to me more reasons for me to be impatient. It's just like your whole thing with the whole EIY, the everyone is you pushed out. So what is that? Everyone is you pushed out. Yeah, the APO thing. EIYPO. Everyone, like that concept with law of attraction and law of assumption and manifesting, right? Because whatever you're working with internally just comes out in the external world. So this is like a whole as within, so without, as above, so below kind of video, pretty much. So, but I specifically name it, how to decode spiritual messages, because with my journey, I feel like things that I'm growing with, and I'm in the spiritual wise, there are still many things that I'm learning and decoding and figuring out here. So we're all working in this together in our own path, in our own way, in our own level. So the things that I wonder about, the things that I'm learning about myself, and the things that tick me off, things that I'm trying to grow things that I'm trying to grow into spiritually, I feel like I do get answers from the universe. So essentially, with the whole impatient thing, it's starting to the universe is kind of starting to show me, like, dude, this is something you got to work on because you're so impatient. So we're going to give you more situations to validate your impatience, aka, okay, this is where you gotta like, this is the last straw. This is it. This is the last straw. This is like a dead end, because essentially you need to really work on your patience. That's the messages that I'm getting from my spirits or the universe or God, is that, it's time to make a change here. It's time to step forward, step over that plateau, move on to the next level, work on your patience or your lack of impatience, or your lack of patience, which is your impatience. The reason you keep seeing more circumstances of being impatient is because you're so much dwelled in your impatience. You're not working on it. So therefore, the universe is just going to conspire to show you more situations and more reasons to be annoyed. So this should give you that spark or that enlightenment of like, oh man, this is something that I really got to work on. Like, I really am impatient. Like, everything's annoying me. Like, why? This isn't right. And once you have that realization or awareness, power of awareness, then you can make a change. And so once you make that change, then you are officially evolving. Like, you can move on to something else now. You're like one step closer to being like the greater version of yourself. And so yeah, that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be about impatience. It could be about any other thing in your life. It could be other things you're working on. It could be your love life. It could be your relationships with your family and your friends. Like, maybe some people will, their whole life they've been so judgmental and cynical and critical and very toxic, or have a toxic attitude towards people. But later, those same people, just like in television shows or in like movies, right? We notice that it's like character development. Like, in the beginning, you're like an asshole and you judge people and you're just very hateful of other people. But you realize, like, along your journey or your path, that the people you come across actually end up being really nice. And so that's the universe speaking to you. Because in essence, the universe is just trying to like communicate, or the spirits is like, they're like trying to communicate with you what things that you need to change about yourself. These are things that you have to work on, because these are the things, I guess, on a deeper subconscious level, these are the things that you've been wondering about. Like, why am I like this? Why do I have this attitude or this feeling towards myself or others? Why is that? So the universe is not answering you through words per se, or I mean, they could through like signs and symbols, but in essence, it's very unlikely that the universe or God or the spirits are literally going to talk to you in a humanized, like, verbal voice in your ear telling you what to do. Like, the universe is going to communicate with you through signs and symbols and messages, which could be through other people or the things that you run into as far as your situations or the circumstances that you undergo. That's how the universe is communicating with you. Like, if you have a thing about anxiety and you don't like going out, you don't like being around other people, you're just an indoor person, you're like a shut-in, or you're like a, what they call in Japan, like a hikikomori. Like, if you're one of those people that are just very much indoors all the time. Like, if you're on a spiritual journey and you're like a hikikomori, or you're a shut-in, and you're very antisocial, you will then notice that whenever you do have to go out for like grocery shopping, that's if you even go out at all, you'll notice that the universe is going to communicate with you and reflect to you what your fucking problem is, basically. Like, dude, this is what you got to fix. Because again, the universe isn't going to communicate with you through like an actual voice, but it will communicate with you through signs and symbols and spiritual messages. Spiritual messages in the sense of, you're you're a shut-in, you're a hikikomori, so you don't like going out with other people, you don't like being around other people, you're like antisocial. Therefore, whenever there are chances for you to go out, or even if you're just at home, you'll tend to watch YouTube videos or internet videos about people going out and having fun. Like, there's always some sort of universal message or reflection from the universe showing you what your issue is. Like, you'll notice people in your family are going to start knocking on your door, blowing up your phone, hitting you up, leaving voicemails, text messages, etc. on your Instagram, social media. Like, dude, why don't you ever go out? And you might get annoyed, you might get very annoyed or irritated, But these are just examples that I'm giving, right? So it's like, whatever problems that you're dealing with, that you're working with, that you have, the universe, I truly do believe, I'm a firm believer that the universe is, or your spirits, your spiritual guide, whatever you may want to call it, God, those things that are within you are going to give you messages or send you messages and hints and efforts to communicate with you in order for you to deal with your issues or your problems. So with the examples that I gave about being irritated, being annoyed, being irritable, impatient, I've been shown signs a lot by the universe that I need to work on this sense of impatience that I have, because more situations about being annoyed or getting annoyed keep happening, and I'm at that point of my power of awareness. I'm at that point now of being so aware about it that I'm starting to figure it out. Like, it's basically clicking. Like, it's clicking. This shit is clicking. Like, okay, there is a problem with me about my lack of patience. Okay, I get it now. And I've worked on it. And I'm not perfect. Still not perfect. But I'm working on it. And over time, I am seeing better results. Like, I'm not as annoyed easily. I'm more calm and chill. And I'm more relaxed. And I've learned to, like, loosen up a little bit around people that might annoy me like before. Like, I've learned a lot about patience, even name calling and yelling, screaming, shouting at work, crazy people out on the street, like people being rude. Like, I don't even get annoyed anymore. I've evolved from that in a sense of having more patience with it. And so, and I've realized when you judge people, you judge certain situations, those things also show up in ways where the universe will communicate with you, like, dude, you've been wrong this whole time about this person that you were judging, or this family member, this friend of yours. Like, you always judge them in a certain light, and you think you're all that, you think you know better, but you tend to get put in situations by the universe, or I guess you put yourself in situations unknowingly, which is your God self, you could say. You put yourself in situations where you embarrass the hell out of yourself, realizing, yeah, you're not as badass and hot as you thought you were, because you just made a fool out of yourself just now. And there's people around you that are just looking at you. They're not even making fun of you, but they can see how much of a fool you're looking like. And so these are just processes of evolution. These are just like the processes of evolution and spiritual growth, and how you're growing as a person and as a human into a spiritual being of the greatest, or the greater version of yourself. And so the universe just tends to be there, which is that higher power, greater power that's also there that you can tap into, that happens to be there to show you what you need to work on. And so that's my video about that. How to decode spiritual messages, getting intuitive answers, and the universe communicating with you, you know. The universe or the spirits don't talk to you literally through your voice or on your phone, but they'll talk to you through signs and symbols, videos on YouTube, your computer, the situations that you run into, other people in your life, the things that they say to you. Because the whole point of as within, so without is just understanding that there's nothing really outside of you. So in essence, what you're going through within will reflect upon your outside world whenever what's within is without. So that's exactly my point. You know, when you wonder about your attitude and how you feel about certain things, the universe is always there to show you or reflect to you what you're feeling inside and what you need to work on. Because you ever realize that do you ever notice that when you judge something at first and you kind of think, oh, this is gonna suck, don't you ever get into those situations where you kind of underestimated or you overestimated something, and you like had this like silly assumption that this was going to be the way that it is. You're judging it on a subconscious level based on your experiences from the past, that, oh, this situation's not going to be fun. Oh, I'm going to go with some friends, we're going to go play basketball. I was never good at basketball. I suck at basketball. People make fun of me when I can't make the shot. I'm horrible at basketball. I'm horrible at sports. And then you're proven wrong by like God or the universe or the spirits sending you these messages. You end up being proven wrong because when you go out to play sports, you end up having a good fucking time. You end up having a blast. As a matter of fact, you probably didn't even do so bad in the sport. You ended up learning that you actually didn't do half as bad as you thought. And even when you didn't do good, nobody was harsh on you nearly as harsh as you'd think they'd be. And so with that being said, the universe is just there to be able to sometimes prove you wrong as well. Like, you're judging something based on your experiences, which is totally understandable. We've all gone through things, but just be prepared to know that the universe can be there and will be there to show you otherwise. The universe will be there to reflect to you what you're feeling and what you may be overly judging, maybe you're being overly assumptuous. Is that a word? Assumptuous? You're assuming too much. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. How to decode spiritual messages, getting intuitive answers, and the universe is talking to you. How the universe is talking to you. So sometimes they're just there to prove you wrong, or they're just there to reflect to you what's going on from within, what work you have to do on the inside. It's like a diagnostic, like for your car, or going to a doctor for a checkup. What are you feeling? What are you going through? Oh, okay, let's do a checkup. Okay, here's the problem. Here it is. I found it. Here's what you got to do. Or like a diagnostic for like I just said, for your car. There's a problem with your vehicle. It's not running the way it's supposed to, so you go get it checked. They look within and see. They show you what the problems are, and they show you what you got to work on. But in that case, that's not a good example, because with the car, they actually will fix it for you if you're willing to make the payment. But yeah, that's pretty much it. How to decode spiritual messages, getting intuitive answers, and pretty much how the universe is talking to you. They always reflect to you what you're going through, what you're feeling, and they reflect the messages that they reflect or communicate the messages they want to speak to you in a sense of your emotions and feelings and the situations that you deal with people and circumstances that you come about. The universe has no limitations on how to communicate with you. As long as you're tapped in with your spiritual work, and you're on that journey or on that path, you'll always get messages, and you'll always be tapped into like the so-called divine or God or the universe. Everything is reflected from within, so without. As within, so without. And so, listen to your intuition and your feelings and your emotions are your guide, and they go hand in hand with the universe. And with that being said, it's getting dark as hell, boy. Peace out.